You're listening to Myers-Briggs Question Corner with Edythe Richards.
Hello folks, today's topic is a great question that I can't believe I've never had a podcast on, Myers-Briggs and exercising. The question comes from a lovely lady named Teresa who asks, is there any correlation between Myers-Briggs types and activities they participate in? For example, I think extroverts likely prefer team sports like football, while introverts may prefer a solitary activity like running or tennis. So, interestingly enough, the Myers-Briggs Company, who are the exclusive publishers of the Myers-Briggs assessment, did a study in 2018 precisely on this topic. As Teresa suspected, people's preferred fitness activities do relate to their personality type. Not surprisingly, extroverts prefer exercising at the gym or around other people. Extroverts are also naturally keen on sharing their achievements and developing relationships with others. In fact, many extroverted types attend the same classes regularly so that they can develop relationships with other people. It was found that introverted types, on the other hand, don't care so much about whether they exercise at home or at the gym, but as a whole, they prefer to exercise alone and interact with few people. And interestingly enough, it was found that this is especially true for thinking types. Introverts also tend to keep their achievements to themselves. So with this research in mind, it's a natural assumption that introverted types will prefer solitary exercise, while extroverted types may gravitate towards team sports. However, I don't think that tells the whole story. How much exercise or sports is a part of a person's life can be based on a number of different factors aside from personality. For example, how early and how often were you exposed to sports or exercise, or how much or how little exercise was incorporated into life or encouraged? Access is another one. For example, some people grew up in areas where there was little access to team sports. Then there's a person's individual preference for sport or not. Let's face it, for whatever reason, some people, regardless of their preference for introversion or extroversion, just don't like certain activities. Bringing this back to the Myers-Briggs type indicator, we have to remember that no assessment or test can explain all human complexity. Everyone is an ambivert in the sense that we all use both sides of each dichotomy the Myers-Briggs measures, E and I, or extroversion and introversion in this case. Therefore, rather than saying, I'm an extrovert, a more accurate phrase is, I have a preference for extroversion, thus sounding less arbitrary and limiting. And I say all this to say that just because you have a certain Myers-Briggs type, you're still your own unique person, and you're not going to have the same interests as others who share your type. Let me bring in my fabulous producer David here to say a few words about Myers-Briggs and exercise, and this will be quick. David, you've shared with us in previous episodes that you're a Myers-Briggs INTJ type, yet team sports were and are a very important part of your life. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how the Myers-Briggs may or may not factor into this?
Sure, and hello listeners. As you may know, I was a football player. Soccer for you Americans out there. In the UK, we attend primary school until age 12. Then we go on to secondary school, or high school as we call it. I didn't begin playing until high school, and that's actually quite late. That's largely because my friends wanted to play football. Now, when we went to join an adult team a few years later, it became obvious that we wouldn't all be able to play together in the same team, and I didn't like that. So I decided we should start our own team. And that's exactly what we did. When people talk about team sports, there's the obvious athletic factor, and health factors are a huge benefit too. But we seldom talk about the other benefits, and there really are quite a lot. I have to say, a big one for me was simply just keeping my friends together, while allowing new players to come along as well. It was a tough beginning. Our team was not very good. In fact, we were getting hammered every week, as they say in Scotland. Heavy defeats. So there was a lot to be learned. And I was only 18 at the time. Thankfully, I did manage to recruit some older, more experienced players, and eventually a manager as well. And they helped a lot. We won as a team and we lost as a team. But I have to tell you, it took a long time before we got that first win. We had to learn how to get better. As a manager, you had to know who needed a kiss on the cheek or a kick up the bottom, as I used to say. So there was a lot of psychology behind it. Behind the scenes meetings and things, I learned a lot about time management and organisation. And a huge benefit, I have to say. By playing team sports, it really did give me confidence. I was a stronger, different person on the field, and you can learn to sort of carry that into real life. So in terms of how this factors into Myers-Briggs, that's a good question. Clearly, I'm an introvert. I didn't think about that back then, but there's no question about that. And I do enjoy team sports. I will say that I didn't want to be out there around people all the time, but having a leadership role within the club certainly helped. I'd say you're onto something, Edythe, that there's a lot more to the type of exercise we prefer than the Myers-Briggs can measure.
Well said, David. Just because you have a certain Myers-Briggs type, that doesn't mean that you're not going to enjoy being part of a team and all the benefits team sports have to offer. Now, ironically enough, I'm an extroverted type myself, and if you've been tuning into my podcasts, you know I've made no secret of that either. But I've never been one for team sports. I'm perfectly happy hiking and biking on my own, or taking a walk and listening to my music and just enjoying nature. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I interact with people all day, every day, and exercise is my own time to enjoy a solitary activity, which, yes, we extroverts need too. So I say, as long as we're getting out there and staying healthy, whatever type of exercise you love to do is great. By all means, keep on doing it. Teresa, thanks so much for asking this question. It gives me yet another opportunity to dispel a few myths about the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. Folks, if you enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor and give us a share on social media. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss another episode. And if you have a question related to the MBTI assessment or personality in general, please get in touch. I'd love to feature your question on a future episode. Until then, stay well and stay healthy.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you'd like to hear more, or you'd like to submit a question yourself, then you can find us at www.atopcareer.com. Until next time. MBTI and Myers-Briggs are registered trademarks of the MBTI Trust.